I was 19 when I first realized, the truth in court isn't what you know, it's what you can prove. The judge's gavel struck the desk like a gunshot. The sharp crack echoed off the marble walls, sending a shiver down my spine. He slid his glasses down his nose and peered at me over the rim, his face carved from stone, expression unreadable. Defendant Jamal Henderson. Grand theft auto. Resisting arrest. The air in the courtroom was thick with anticipation, tension so sharp it could slice through steel. I turned my head slightly. Behind me, my mother sat rigidly, hands clasped so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. Her nails dug into her palms, but she didn't flinch. She wasn't crying, yet. Her eyes, dark and shining, locked onto me, wide with fear and silent desperation. Next to her, my younger brother Malik gripped the edge of the bench, his jaw clenched. He was barely 16, but he had already learned what it meant to live with fear, to see someone who looked like him treated as guilty before proven innocent. Beside me, my public defender leaned in, his breath hot and stale with coffee. He muttered something too fast, too low for me to catch. His tie was crooked. His shirt was wrinkled. He looked tired. Because he wasn't here to win. Across the courtroom stood Mark Crawford, the prosecutor. He was a man who thrived on conviction rates. His suit was immaculate, his blonde hair neatly combed back. He wore the expression of a man who had already won. When he spoke, his voice was a well-practiced weapon, smooth and controlled. Your Honor, we have all the evidence. The defendant's fingerprints in the stolen vehicle. Security footage. A police officer's testimony. His words landed like hammer blows. I knew I hadn't stolen that car. But I also knew something else, my truth didn't matter here. The judge studied me for a long moment. The pause was deliberate, calculated. Are you certain you want to represent yourself? A ripple of unease passed through the room. A whisper, a shuffle of fabric. I could feel it pressing against my skin, hear it in the slight intake of breath from one of the jurors. The prosecutor smirked. Yes, Your Honor. I didn't hesitate. The jury exchanged glances. I saw the doubt in their eyes. The quiet amusement. A young black man choosing to defend himself. They had already made up their minds. What they didn't know was that I had grown up in a house where the law wasn't just some distant force, it was dinner table talk. My mother had worked as a paralegal for over 20 years. I had spent my childhood listening to case studies instead of bedtime stories. I knew how courtrooms worked. And I knew how this system worked. Especially against people like me. The prosecutor called his first witness, Officer Robert Miller. He was the one who arrested me. The one who had tackled me to the pavement and shoved my face into the asphalt. He walked to the stand with the calm confidence of a man who had done this 100 times before. His uniform was crisp, his badge gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He took the oath, sat down, and adjusted the microphone. Officer Miller, did you personally witness the defendant driving the stolen vehicle? Yes. He was behind the wheel. A simple, clear statement. No room for doubt. I rose slowly, adjusting my suit jacket. My heart was steady. My breath even. Officer Miller, was your body camera turned on during the arrest? Yes. Did you check the GPS logs from your patrol car at the time of the pursuit? A brief pause. No, but that doesn't change what I saw. I caught it. That hesitation. That moment of uncertainty. The prosecutor shifted in his seat. Your Honor, I formally request the GPS data from Officer Miller's patrol car. If my suspicion is correct, his vehicle was too far away for him to have seen me behind the wheel. The judge glanced at the clerk. A nod. The wheels were already turning. For the first time, Crawford didn't look quite so sure of himself. I walked to the evidence table and placed a photograph in front of me. A shot of the stolen car's interior. Your Honor, these are the fingerprints found in the vehicle. They belong to me. But do fingerprints alone prove I was the driver? Crawford let out a short, dismissive breath. The defendant wants us to believe he just happened to touch the car. I met his gaze. Held it. I want to remind the court that touching something doesn't mean owning it. Then I turned to the jury, my voice steady, deliberate. If you tried on a jacket in a store, and later that jacket was stolen, does that make you a thief? The room was silent. A woman in the jury shifted in her seat. A man frowned, as if reconsidering something. Doubt. Now for the final blow. I reached into my folder, pulling out a folded document. Your Honor, I have evidence the prosecution failed to submit. A statement from the owner of the stolen vehicle. I handed it to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. He unfolded it. Adjusted his glasses. Read aloud. I saw a white man steal my car. It was definitely not Jamal Henderson. The words sliced through the courtroom like a blade. Jurors glanced at each other. A murmur rippled through the spectators. The judge lowered the paper. He removed his glasses, rubbing his forehead. Crawford opened his mouth, to argue, to counter, but there was nothing left to say. He had lost. The judge exhaled. The prosecution has failed to prove the defendant's guilt. Case dismissed. The sound of chairs scraping against the floor. A sharp intake of breath. And then, my mother sobbing. She surged forward, arms wrapping around me, clutching me like she had almost lost me. Her body trembled. Tears streaked her face, but her lips curled into something close to a laugh. Relief, disbelief, gratitude, all tangled into one. I let out a shaky breath. Stepped outside. And took in the air like I was breathing for the first time. But before the doors swung shut behind me, I heard the judge's voice one last time. Son, you have talent. You should consider a career in law. I smiled. Just slightly. But I knew the truth. Today, I proved my innocence. But how many other Jamals were still in those courtrooms, without a chance to be heard? This system won't change on its own. We change it.